Hi everyone, my name is Shwana Khan Yusufzai and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer from GTechLearn. Today I'm going to deliver a webinar on Microsoft compliance solution. This webinar is of 45 minutes. The last 5 minutes will be for the question and answers round. Let me record this. Okay, it's already recording. So we will start from capabilities of Microsoft compliance solutions. We know that we are living in the world of technology. And after the COVID era, everything is moving to the cloud, whether it is the business organizations, whether they are the educational institutes. People are preferring to work on cloud. And also we can see the hybrid model where on-premises infrastructure along with the cloud is considered. So Azure is a cloud computing platform which is offered by Microsoft. And here we will be studying the compliance capabilities of Azure provided by Microsoft. The agenda of this webinar will be, first we will be seeing the compliance solutions overview, then we will see the top level concepts of compliance, and along with we will see the practicals which will clear the theoretical concepts, and then we will have the question and answer session in the last 5 minutes of the webinar. Compliance capabilities in Azure. What do you understand by compliance? Compliance is basically obeying of the rules, the laws and standards which are already set up. So when we are talking about cloud, and when we say that there is a business organization which is moving its infrastructure to the cloud so that its employees who are living in any corner of the world can sit on their system and do the work of that organization. That means, like we see, because of corona, the work of these organizations was not solved. This was because of the facilities the cloud service provides. People can easily move their infrastructure to the cloud and they can use all the applications and services there. But when we say that we are moving to the cloud, the one thing which comes in our mind is security. How secure is this feature, that moving your whole system from your on premise to the cloud, how secure is this? So we need a guarantee from these cloud service providers so that we can easily move to the cloud without caring about the security and integrity of our services. Azure is the cloud computing platform which ensures our security and integrity by providing various compliance capabilities. That is, we will be meeting the rules and standards which are set up by our organization or our institution. So if we see, it grants the individuals the right to access their data at any time. That means you need not to be present at your physical environment in your office, in your school, to access your data. You can access it anytime from any corner of the world. You can correct it. Not only you can view those data, you can also correct it, delete it. You can save the data for the amount of time you want. Also, government agencies which needs to access the data of its people, it grants the access to those government and regulatory agencies. Remember that it is not granting the access to everyone, because this is going to breach the security of your organization. This access is provided only to those people who are privileged enough to have access to that data, like governments and regulatory agencies, and that too is provided for a period of time they need it, and then the access is taken. And this whole system defines the rules that how your data can be processed and how it is used in your organization. The top level concepts we will be studying here are the compliance management capabilities in Azure. Then we will see the information protection and governance capabilities of Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 is an application provided by Microsoft where people can work online on Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, on Teams, or OneDrive for business, on Yammer. All these applications are available with Microsoft 365 on the cloud. Then we have insider risk capabilities in Microsoft 365. We also have the capabilities of eDiscovery, that is electronic discovery, and audit. And lastly, we will see the resource governance capabilities in Azure. So starting with the compliance management capabilities in Azure, remember that Microsoft focuses on 6 key privacy principles when it makes decisions about the data. That is, there are 6 things which it keeps in mind when it ensures the privacy or security of any data which is being transferred to it by the organizations which are working in a hybrid model with Azure. Those 6 principles are the control, transparency, security, which is a very beautiful feature provided by Azure, strong legal protections, no content-based targeting. That means it does not use email, chats, files, or other personal content of the user to target the advertising, because advertising has become a very trending thing these days, and people do not want to share their personal information for the advertisement. So Microsoft ensures that there is no content based targeting. Then it benefits the users in every condition. So if we talk about compliance management capabilities, there is a special portal on Azure which ensures the compliance management, and that portal is the URL you can see here. We will see in the browser also, compliance.microsoft.com. Here this compliance center portal, it is a view of how the any organization is meeting its compliance requirements. Like it will tell you that if your organization is working on the cloud, what is the security posture of your cloud, and to represent that security level of in your organization, it uses a compliance score. You can see here a compliance score is given which tells how secure your whole system is. And there are different sections on this compliance page. If we explore this page on the portal, let's go to the browser. Let me open the office admin.microsoft.com page. Here we will directly see. First let me go to the users section. Okay, now I have logged into this admin.microsoft.com account using this ID. You can see here, webinar demo at shwanakhan04 outlook.onmicrosoft.com. This ID I created on Azure portal, and I assigned a global administrator role to this ID. Then I purchased a license, the trial version of the license, Enterprise Security, and Microsoft 365 E3 trial version. After purchasing these licenses, using the trial version though, I am able to use these services and show all the demos here. So if you see the active users here, you will see that webinar demo. This active user I have created, and you can see the license assigned to this user here, which I already told, Enterprise Mobility plus Security E5 and Office 365 E3. Okay, so we were talking about compliance structure. How you can discover the compliance structure from this admin.microsoft.com page. Come here on the show all. Here in the admin center, you will get the section compliance. Open this section. This will take to the URL compliance.microsoft.com. This page is loading. See, it tells us your compliance score. Your compliance score is 50%. That means it is telling that the user which I have created in the Azure portal, the security posture of that user is only 50%. That means the user is not 100% secure. Its activities are not 100% secure. Not only it tells the score, but if we open this compliance manager section, see, it is also going to reflect that what are the recommended actions on which you should work in order to enhance your security feature. You will see here the points and the scores. Just wait and see. Okay, now if you see your compliance score is 50%, if you see the points achieved, this is the total number of points, 23,473, in which you have only obtained 11,951 points. Now, if you see this here, your points achieved. That means it is telling the number of points achieved by me, the user, or if any organization is working, then your points is basically representing the points of the organization. In my case, it is representing the point of my user, which I have created in the Azure portal. Now, the second one is Microsoft Managed Points Achieved. This is the number of points which Microsoft has achieved by taking the improvement actions. And if you see, it is full on full because Microsoft has taken all the necessary actions in order to deal with the recommended actions. If you see here, improvement actions, the improvement actions which needs to take place in order to increase the security compliance score is given here, like enable self-service password reset. If you work on this solution, you will gain 27 points. And here the points of every improvement action is given, so you can decide the priority that which action you should take first in order to improve your compliance score. So here you can see from here all the improvement actions. Then here in this section, solutions are also given. Like if you see, this page is loading, let us wait. Then we have solutions, like how much the potential score is for audit 61 and how much points you have got 0. So you can work here. Then you have assessments, like you can create your own assessment using the compliance use on this compliance manager page. And also there are assessment templates which you can use to create your own assessments. Like here, data protection baseline for Microsoft 365, the assessment progress is 50%, my improvement action is 0, and the Microsoft actions is 689. So Microsoft is doing its security work in full action, whereas my work for security is, you can see, 0 here. So I need to improve these actions. Here you have the pre-built assessment templates. If you see, these are the pre-built, you can customize them using yours. Now coming back to the overview section, let's go back on this page, compliance manager. Now you can see here there is a solution sections in which there are many sections, like eDiscovery section, the DLP, data loss prevention section. Each section will take us to that specific work, like information governance, information protection to protect your information. Then there are information barriers, then insider risk management. Every setting is there. Here you can see the custom navigation page is also appearing. Whatever you want to make appear on your navigation pane, you can check it from here. Whatever you don't want, you can uncheck from here. So let it be as it is. So this is for navigation. If you go back to the compliance page again, this will, one second. Here, the home page of compliance manager. These cards can also be moved from one place to other. Bring the cursor here. When it turns gray, you can move this here. Wherever you want to move the card, you can move these cards. You can also remove this card by clicking on this button. Like here, from here you can remove this card if you want. From here you can add new cards. So whatever customization you want to do on this page, you can do, and everything is given in the description section. Now coming back to the slide, the compliance management capabilities was clear here. We also talked about compliance manager, where we talked about the assessment, templates, improvement actions. Coming to the next part, which is the information protection and governance. The information protection and governance section, which we saw on the compliance manager page, it quickly shows you how to use Microsoft 365 compliance solutions to protect and govern the data in your organization. Similarly, we had the insider risk management section there, which tells us how your organization can identify, analyze, and act on the internal risk which is present in your organization. Then we have the discovery and response section, which shows that how your organization can quickly find, investigate, and respond to the compliance issue with the relevant data. There are also active alert sections. So if we come to the information protection and governance section, you can see here there are 4 features which is used by this governance and protection capabilities. The first thing is know your data, then it protects your data, it prevents the data loss, and it governs the data. So how these 4 steps is obtained, if you see, know your data means organizations can understand their data landscape, that what type of data at what type of time for what type of people it is using, everything it knows, whether it is on premises, on the cloud, or it is a hybrid type of environment. So here the capabilities and tools used by the compliance section is trainable classifiers, activity explorers, content explorers. It allows the organizations to know the data which they are using. Now coming to the next step, which is protecting your data. Organizations use different protection techniques like encrypting your data, giving restricted access, and visual markings of your data. Then it prevents the data loss. It detects the risk, the organization detects the risky behavior, and they prevent the uh, accidental or inadvertent sharing of the sensitive information, so that the right information is reaching to right people and it is not maliciously corrupted anywhere in between throughout the communication process, so that any data is not lost in the whole communication from the source to the destination. Then the fourth is govern your data, where organizations can automatically keep, delete, store, or record data for in a compliant manner. Like it has the governing power to either store your data, delete your data, and update your data. There are various features here used by Azure, like retention policies are there, sensitivity labels, sensitivity policies, record management facilities are used to govern your data by the Microsoft. Next, coming to the things which we talked about, sensitivity labels and policies. Now, what is sensitivity label? It is available as a part of information protection. In the information protection section on the compliance .microsoft.com page, when we will go, we will see their sensitivity labels. It enables the labeling and protection of content. Like first we will label the content, and then we will publish the label to the different users or to the different files for which we want to implement it. So with using the sensitivity labels, organizations can decide on labels to apply to content, like what type of content they want to apply those labels, like on emails and documents, on different users, on the whole organization. If we talk about these labels, they are customizable. That is, the user can customize it and give it the name according to them, like confidential label, public label, personal label, highly confidential label. Then clear text. It is clear text means it gives a basic description, like what type of label it is, so that the users can understand what is the motive behind implementing that label or using this label. Persistence means after you apply a sensitivity label to any content, the label will be stored in the metadata of that email or document, and the label will move with the content, including those protection settings. Similarly, without label policies, sensitivity labels are of no use, because once the sensitivity labels are created, they needs to be published so that they are available to people and the services in the organizations. So sensitivity labels, they are published to users or groups through these policies. Now, these policies enables the administrators to choose the users and groups that can see labels, like who is going to see that label. This will be decided while creating the label policy. Then applying a default label to all new emails and documents that the specified users and group create. Then it will require justification for label changes. Like if someone wants to change the label, it will require a justification there to complete the action. Because if the label has been created, and suppose if someone is wanting to change that label, he has to give the proper valid reason. That reason will be checked, and then only the label can be changed. So this is a very rigorous process too. Requiring users to apply a label. That means it will ensure that before the users are saving their documents, they are sending their emails or creating new sites and groups, they apply the label if it is mandatory. That is called mandatory labeling. Then link users to custom help pages. That means it will help users to understand that what the different labels mean and how they should be used. What is the meaning of these labels and how those labels will be used. We will see how we can create a sensitivity label and policies. But before that, let us understand the retention policies and retention labels. Like retention labels and policies, they help any organization to manage and govern information by ensuring that the content is kept only for a required period of time, because there is of no use if we are saving the data forever. If it is of no use, it should be deleted so that there is space in the cloud too. For that, retention policies and labels are created. Now, this is done so that the data which needs to be kept for a less amount of time, it is there for that specific period of time only. And this, or using the retention labels, it will reduce the risk when there is a litigation or a security breach. And this is done by permanently deleting all the old content which is no longer needed by the organization. Then it will ensure users that they work only with the content that is relevant to them. They are not able to access all the content, but the one which is only relevant to them, for what period of time it is relevant to them, they will be granted access for that. Now, if we see the basic difference between the labels and the policies, retention policies, they are applied at site or mailbox level. And a single policy can be applied to multiple locations or to specific locations or users. Now, if we talk about retention labels, they are used to assign retention static at item level, like folder, documents, or email. And retention settings from the retention labels, they travel with the content. Even if it is moved to a different location within your Microsoft 365 tenant, it will be traveling through the content. Also, admin can apply it automatically or manually. That depends totally on that. So this was all about retention labels and policies, and they work with SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, for Microsoft Teams, Yammer, Exchange, and it is a very cool feature so that no space in the cloud as well is wasted. If the data is not being in use, delete it. Make a policy, like suppose the result of the students need to be kept for only 5 years, just suppose, then it will create a retention policy for 5 years, and then all the data will be deleted. Now, if we see how we implement this label, let us go to the portal. Here I have already created a sensitivity label on the compliance.microsoft.com page. You can see I have information protection section. I have already created a label here, if you can see. Because this label takes, when I publish this label, it takes time to be implemented, about 8 to 12 to 24, up to 24 hours it can take. So I already have created a label, though I will show here how to create a new label. So see, this label I have created with the name confidential. Let me show you the different parameters of this label. The name is confidential. The display name is also confidential. Description for users is confidential. Label for webinar demo, because I've created this label to show to you all for the webinar. Its scope was for all the users, for all the files, emails, schematized data assets. Encryption I have provided. Watermark I have given as GTechLearn. Header was confidential. Footer was webinar demo. And auto labeling for files and emails I have done. So I've already made this label, and also I have published it. You can see the policy here I have used, the name I used was confidential policy. Description, confidential policy. The label which I created, this policy is for that label, like confidential, and it is published to all. Now I will show you how to create a label. Just to show you that how I created this confidential label, I will do it again. create a label. Here you can give whatever name you want. Like suppose I want to give public. I will write here public. Display name, I'm keeping the credentials short because we have less time. Description for users, public demo, no need for next. Scope for files and emails for schematized data assets. That means the scope of this label I am assigning here. Then moving to the next, do you want to encrypt the files and emails? Yes. Mark the content of files? Yes. Now it will ask for those settings. Assign permissions now or let users decide. Now I want to assign the permissions. The content expiration I have put to never and offline access always. The default settings, let it be as it is. So in same way, we can remove encryption because already we have done that. Content marking you want to do? Yes. Here you can add a watermark like I put there. GTechLearn. Here also you can put something like suppose if you want webinar, you can put here, save. Here you want to add a header. Okay, put a header. You can change the font size, font color, aligning, everything you can see here. Like suppose I put a header, GTechLearn, save it. Then I added a footer also. That will be at the end of the document. Suppose I put Guru Gram, save. Then do next. Auto labeling you want. If you want, yes. If you don't want, no need to do it. Define protection settings for sites and group. Next. And if you will create here, create label, this label will be created. Because I don't want to create this label, let me go back. Now I want to show you that how this label is applied to the contents of the user I created in the Azure portal. Let me go back to my Azure portal. I will sign in using my Outlook account. Okay, here I have already created a virtual machine. Let me go to the virtual machine section. From here also you can go. See, this machine I have already created, which is running in East US on Windows operating system with 3 virtual CPUs. Disks is 1. Let me take the RDP session of this virtual machine to show you all the sensitivity level applied on the contents of this VM. Let me connect. Download the RDP file. Let me run this. Connect, yes. The username I provided while I was making this virtual machine on the Azure portal was webinar VM, and the password was webinar at 2022. Okay. Yes, I want to apply all the certificates. Okay, so now this VM is opening. When I made this VM, I went to the Microsoft Edge page, and from the Microsoft Edge page, I opened the browser admin.microsoft.com, from where I installed the Microsoft Office 365. And I downloaded and installed the software of Microsoft Office 365 on this virtual machine. That's why all the features of Office 365 will be present here, like Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. You can see Teams here as well. Let me open a Word file. All these things I have done before starting this webinar because the implementation of all these situations takes much time. And here we have limited time, so all the things have already been done. Let me open Word file. I have a Word file open. Let me open a blank document. Okay, got it. Let me go to the sensitivity and the label which I created. You have seen that in the Office 365 compliance.microsoft.com there, I created a label confidential. Let me click on this label. Now you can see everything which I put there in that label is displayed here, like The watermark I put was GTechLearn in diagonal in font size 20, I think, and the color was black. You can see here. The footer and header I defined was, the header was confidential. You can see here. The footer was webinar demo. It is displayed here. So the sensitivity label which I created on the compliance page and I published it using the policy was applied to all the users for that active user through which I was sign in my office account. Let me close the remote session. No, I don't want to save this file. Let me close the session of this VM. Okay. Okay. So this was how I created and published my sensitivity label. Let me go back. Now we will study about insider risk solutions in Microsoft. When any organization is working, there are chances that the people or the services which are being used in the organization, they too can become a risk factor for that organization. So how will Microsoft deal with such type of conditions when the insider risks are causing damage to the organization or the services and the applications? So insider risk management basically minimizes the internal risks in any organization by enabling us to detect, investigate, and act. There are three basic features. First, detection, second, investigation, and third, action on malicious and inadvertent activities. Then communication compliance is used to minimize the communication risk by capturing and acting on inappropriate messages in the organization. And the services supported here are all which is provided by the Microsoft, like Teams, Exchange Online, Yammer, and third-party communication in the organization. Information barriers allow restricted and information to communicate between two parties. Like suppose the students of one college are unable to see or pass their information to the students of the other college who are on the same cloud. So it restricts the communication and collaboration between two internal groups to avoid any conflict of interest. Similarly, we have privileged access management, which provides only access to the right people at the right time. Like everyone is not able to use the services, only the relevant data is provided for the relevant people or for the desired and right people or users. Then customer logbox, we have customer logbox ensures that Microsoft cannot access the customer content to perform a service operation without the approval of the customer. Like if the customer wants its content, if Microsoft wants to take some actions on the customer's content, it first needs to take the permission of the customer himself. So this is a very cool feature of Microsoft, that though even everything is on its cloud, it is not seeing the content of its customers because of this customer logbox feature, which is supported in the services like Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and OneDrive for Business. Now here a workflow for insider risk management is given. You can see the diagram. This will help the organization to first identify, then investigate, and then address those risks which are present in an organization. If you see, the first step is policy. The first step will be the creation of the policies using the predefined templates and policy conditions. Then you can see alerts. Alerts are generated by risk indicators which will match the policy conditions, and if the policy conditions are not met, alerts will be generated. There is a alert dashboard from where we can see the alerts. Then triage. Here the priority of the different actions will be considered, like which action should be performed prior to performing the next one. That is, it is based on the severity of the alert. And review user profile information. Then investigate. Once the alerts are generated, we have ensure which alert needs to be first attempted. Then we investigate. And then action, that is, once the case are investigated, reviewers can quickly act to resolve the case in the organization. So this was the whole workflow diagram for insider risk management. Next, we come to the eDiscovery and audit capabilities of Microsoft 365. As the name suggests, it is the process of identifying and delivering electric on information that can be used as a evidence in legal cases. So you can use eDiscovery tools in Microsoft 365, where you can search for content in Exchange Online, in OneDrive for Business, in SharePoint Online, in Microsoft Teams, Microsoft 365 groups, Yammer Teams, all the services provided by Microsoft 365. You can use these eDiscovery tools to identify, hold, and export content which are found in mailboxes and sites. So basically, there are three eDiscovery solutions, which is content search, then comes the core eDiscovery, and then the advanced eDiscovery. In content search, we use the content search tool to search for the content across the Microsoft 365 data sources. And once those contents are searched, they export the results to the local computer. Then when we talk about core eDiscovery, it builds the basic search and it exports the functionality of content search by enabling us to create e-discovery cases. Like for core e-discovery, first we will be creating e-discovery cases, then we will be downloading the data in the form of like CSV file and then working on it. If we see the audit capabilities, as the name suggests, audit, it will allow the organization to view the users and administrators activity through a unified audit log, and then audit reports will be created. Audit record is generated and it is stored in the audit log for the organization. Whenever any legal hearing or legal thing comes into account, then these audit logs are taken out, where you can see the activities by different users and administrators. So if we see the length of time that an audit record is kept is generally 90 days. It is generally 90 days. Then we have resource governance capabilities in Azure, in which we will see Azure Resource Manager logs. Azure Resource Manager logs, they prevent the resources which we have created in Azure from being accidentally deleted or changed. Like if some other user is trying to delete or update your file, this log will prevent that scenario of accidental deletion and updation. And if we apply a lock at a parent scope, all resources which are within that scope, they will inherit that lock. And it will apply only to operations that are happening in the management plane. And the main thing is that changes to the actual resources are restricted, but resource operations are not restricted. Only the changes to the actual source will be restricted. So these are the pretty features of using Azure logs. Then we have Azure Blueprints. Azure Blueprints, they provide a way to define a repeatable set of Azure resources, that you are going to create a repeatable set of those Azure resources. Azure resources which are across various subscriptions simultaneously, they can also be, for those also we can create the Azure Blueprints. Basically, it is a declarative way to orchestrate the deployment of various resource templates like role assignments, policy assignments. We have Azure resource management templates. We have resource groups. So these blueprint objects, they can be replicated to multiple Azure regions. And by replicating it with this resources, or by using blueprint, it is providing low latency, high availability, and consistent access to your blueprint objects. Then with Azure Blueprints, the relationship which is between the blueprint definition and the blueprint assignment, that is preserved. Now, what is blueprint definition and what is blueprint assignment? What should be deployed is known as blueprint definition, and what was deployed is known as blueprint assignment. So this connection supports improved tracking and auditing of the deployments. Next, we come to Azure policies. These Azure policies, they help to enforce standards and access compliance across any organization, because it evaluates that whether the properties of the resources is matching with the business rules or the policy definitions set or not. Generally, these business rules or policy definitions, they are described using the JavaScript oriented format, JSON format, and it is technically known as policy definitions. So here you can see that Azure policy, it helps enforce standards and access across your organization. a compliance dashboard, which is to evaluate the overall state of the environment, and then it evaluates the resources in Azure and Arc enabled resources. Now I'm going to apply a policy and show you all. If you come to this page, sorry. So here you can see my screen. I have already created in this Azure portal. I have created a policy. From here you can go in policy, or here also you can type policy and go to the policy section. So I have already created a policy to show you all. See, require a tag on resource groups. This policy I have created, in which I have set that every resource which is created in this user within this tenant needs a tag, and that tag value is environment. If this tag value is not present for the resource will, we cannot be able to create the resource. Now you can see I have created a policy here. Okay, you can view the definition from here of this policy. See, require a tag on resource groups. Like every resource group which I will create now will need a tag. Enforce existence of a tag on resource group tags. And here if you see, okay, I thought that my screen was not visible for a time. I hope it is visible now. So yes, so this policy was created, and here the name of the tag you can see here as environment. Now I'm going to create a resource group and see that whether my policy is working or not. So I'm going to create a resource group. Let me create one, create, and show you all. Let the name be webinar policy. Okay, region East US, next tag. Here I'm not going to provide any tag. Let me see that whether this resource group is being able to create itself or not. Let me check. Review and create. Validation pass. Let me create. Failed to create the resource group. Why? Let me see the error details. Resource webinar policy was disallowed by policy because you see that I created a policy that the resource group which I need to create, which should have a tag, and that tag value should be environment. And I did not put any tag value here. That's why this resource group was not able to be created. Now I am going to put a tag value here, that is environment, which I created there. And now I'm going to check that whether it is created or not. So this resource group is created. You can see here webinar policy. You can see here, this was created because I put that tag value while making the resource group. So this was all about Microsoft compliance solutions. Let me share my screen. Okay. Here we discussed everything along with the practicals, basically the compliance solutions. Here are the upcoming events by GTechLearn. Configure your Microsoft Sentinel environment. And thanks for attending. If you have any question, you can ask. You can ask your questions if you have any doubt in chat box. We have studied the compliance solutions, all about insider risk capabilities, the audit capabilities, the information protection and governance capabilities. Then we created a sensitivity label, published it, and then checked onto the virtual machine. We installed Microsoft Office on that virtual machine and saw the sensitivity label. Then we also checked that we created a policy which required a tag. The value of the tag was environment, and how we were able to create a resource group with that tag value, and how we were not able to create the resource group when we were not providing the tag value. So all these things were discussed in this 45 minutes webinar. Now, for any doubts, please go ahead. Okay, so already we have 45 minutes, I think now. Okay, thank you for your comment. Anything you want to ask about the slides?